Game 2 from Winnipeg gets underway tonight between the Jets and the Montreal Canadiens. The Habs with a 1-0 series advantage to this point. Our playoff coverage brought to you by Bitbuy, Canada's #1 cryptocurrency platform. And gentlemen, some changes now coming up with Jake Evans out for Montreal. It looks like Arturi Lehkonen will be slotting in his same spot. No other changes for the Habs. And for Winnipeg, obviously no Mark Scheifele. He's suspended for 4. And Dylan DeMello is out for an extended period of time, over a week, according to the coach. Not confirming yet who's coming in, but let's start here, Wardo, with the Winnipeg Jets. And what do they need to do to kind of rebound after, let's be honest, a pretty poor performance in Game 1?
Yeah, I think this is actually an opportunity. It's the Winnipeg Jets right now looking at the situation, saying to themselves, they played beyond poor. There's nothing about that game that's redeeming, nothing on video that you're going to present to the team and say, hey, listen, let's build off of this. So now with Scheifele out in particular, I think it's a reshuffle. Guys don't have to sit back and wait for the skilled guys to do it. They saw what Montreal brought, and Winnipeg's got to be way sharper, far more invested, and a little more disciplined all the way around in this game, both in the penalty end and the discipline of your system. So Hellebuyck's going to lead this. Let's be honest. They're going to get their stability from seeing a goalie step up at the start of the game, the first 10 minutes, make all the saves. From Montreal's perspective, I think the biggest mistake you make is this means anything. The absence of Scheifele. Again, the mentality that Winnipeg's going to take in, they're not going to take anything for granted, and I don't think Montreal can either. They got to take it still as the underdog. They got to come into the game and expect to play like they did in Game 1, and that's the Montreal Canadiens that we saw at the start of the year. Everybody was excited about the depth of this team. Everybody was rolling. There was an excitement and a style of play different than the end of the season, and that's what I think is something to build on for the Montreal Canadiens. But the funniest part of all this is how you got there in this game is the old guy network, the union. The old guy, veteran union led the way. Those Stahl and Perry and Armia on the wing. I mean, these guys currently, I think this is the value of bringing in Stanley Cup winners to a lineup at this stage of the season. There's a sense of just kind of ease, understanding the circumstance, understanding the situation, and putting the mindset in that locker room in a positive place so that they go out and play on the road like they did.
These probably aren't the guys they thought they'd be counting on, but you're right. The numbers back it up. They're playing like Montreal played at the start of the season, and it was actually kind of funny. Hellebuyck's performance aside, this felt like, a regular season game. The numbers and what happened on the ice matched, which has been hilariously absent this whole playoff. So, Montreal dominated possession like they did during the regular season. They were about 58%. Dominated expected goals, over 60 in pretty much every model I could find. And they also dominated slot shots, 5-0. So they shut the Jets out of the areas of the ice where, you would score a lot of the goals. So for Montreal, this is kind of exactly how you wrote up a lot of the regular season for them. For the Jets, sadly, this is kind of what you expected based on what they did during the regular season. They're not a great 5-on-5 team, and they're playing on paper one of the better ones. So, I don't know what the Jets can do from here, but I think you hit the nail on the head. It's going to come down to Hellebuyck.
Wardo, how difficult is it for players, speaking with respect to Montreal, knowing that Winnipeg's best player is not going to be in this series for the next 4 games? How difficult is it to fall into that trap of, we've got this? What do they need to do to make sure that they stay on task rather than get too far ahead of themselves?
I think you have 2 issues, right? So from taking Scheifele out, it's like stepping off the gas pedal. I think the bigger issue, though, is knowing Scheifele's out is maintaining that focus. Because we heard Edmondson say in front of the media, we'll make his life difficult. Well, that's going to kind of translate and pour over into the entire game, right? I expect a pretty emotionally involved game for the Montreal Canadiens to start Game 2. You have to maintain that discipline. You can't offer Winnipeg opportunities at home to get themselves mentally and physically into the game because you do something stupid. So I think the biggest battle for the Montreal Canadiens team is to not get overly emotionally involved, right? These things will play themselves out. They got to maintain that stability on the ice, play the systems the way it was designed from Game 1. And just because it's Game 2, the score starts 0-0. There's nothing you want to do to get out of the mold you already set in place for this series to start.
And Shane, from your side of things, we've known and we've talked about this all season, how ineffective Winnipeg is 5-on-5. Is there a way for them to change that in this series, or is it even tougher now because of a guy named Carey Price?
Well, I will say, as we acknowledged, the Jets say that their internal numbers are a lot better than what I can see in the public. So they might not be as bad at 5-on-5 as we think they are. But the one thing they did really well in the previous series and during the regular season is forechecking. They were an effective forechecking team. The problem was anytime the other team is able to get the puck up the ice and get in the zone, they are just porous on the back end and gave up a ton of scoring chances. So, maybe they can do something to tighten that up and basically go to a trap or something like that at this point. But I think the problem is now the lineup is just not very deep outside of that first line. So I think you almost have to, go back to the drawing board and try to play a really, really low event style, which is not something they've been good at, but I just don't know what else, is left for them.
I think if they actually go with the against the grain and don't go the low event style, they have to recognize that Montreal's at a deficit and back on D, right? They got older guys, they're playing basically four guys. And when the success came for the Winnipeg Jets in the last game was when they pressured the younger guys. Gustafsson on the first goal, Kulak was out to lunch in the second. So knowing those guys are on the ice, maybe it's design targeting to know that in the moment that these guys are, that matchup is available to you, that you go and push forward on them and then maybe fall back into the style that you're talking about.
Then it's just, can you beat Price? At that point, it becomes a question of, he's been probably the best goalie in the playoffs. So, if you go too low event, are you going to create enough offense where you can take advantage of him?
The other challenge, of course, no Dylan DeMello, as we mentioned, on the blue line. So Winnipeg will have their own challenges in their own zone facing Montreal's offense. We'll see how this one goes. Game 2 gets underway tonight from Winnipeg, 7:30 Eastern.